new episode of Soloing Secrets, and this is B.B King. A huge, huge lesson sitting right here. And definitely, B.B King is essential. The late, great, legendary icon of blues and the guitar. Definitely kind of a guitar diplomat, for decades, for sure. And definitely his career started back in 1942. And, definitely a legendary guitarist. And it does seem like a lot of people are confused about his influences because, his guitar playing goes back so far. It is like, well, who influenced B.B King? Because B.B King literally influenced the entire scene. But then if you step back and go and look at the early blues, and there's some jazz and different influences. But here's a list of some of B.B King's elusive musical influences. And then during BB's career, he worked literally with everybody. And here's a list of some of the people he worked and recorded with or performed on stage with. And keep in mind, this is really just a partial list. I could only cram so many names on this image. But check this out. Then as far as B.B King's actual soloing secrets, the things he typically liked to do when he'd pick up a guitar and play a lick or a fill or a solo or something. And there's a lot, once again, a lot of authentic blues, phrasing, blues influences, lots of string bending and vibrato and very expressive and melodic, and lots of minor and major pentatonic scales, hybrid pentatonic scales, the B.B King box, the Hummingbird vibrato. There's all sorts of stuff hiding in BB's, playing style. But here's an image showing 10 of his soloing secrets. So during B.B King's career, he released 43 studio albums, 16 live albums, and 138 singles. 19 of those songs were top 10 hits on the R&B charts. But there's obviously a mountain of B.B King to kind of work through. And here's an image with 3 essential B.B King albums. 2 are live, 1's a studio album, but you have to check these 3 out. So the music and examples in this episode came from one B.B King album. So instead of tackling 43 albums, I actually just revisited one of my favorite B.B King albums. That's Indianola Mississippi Seeds. Definitely a great, legendary album. Joe Walsh playing rhythm guitar, Leon Russell on piano, also Carole King on piano on certain songs. Great, overlooked, essential B.B King album for sure. Not really as well known as some of his other records, but don't take my word for it. Here's a quote from Mr. King himself. We will dive into what I played during the opening jam later in this lesson, but the first thing we're going to tackle here is essential. It's the B.B King box, and by looking at this first, it's actually going to give you some insight into what I played during the opening jam. So this lesson is going to be revolving around A7, in the key of A. And the first thing I want you to do is think of the minor pentatonic box that lives right here, like centered around the 10th position. Think of A minor pentatonic right there. Right? So right there is kind of the neighborhood where we're going to put this B.B King box. So what you want to do is basically think of what key you're in. We're in the key of A. And then on the B string, kind of line up and find your root note on the B. So right there, we're going to find an A, on the 10th fret on the B string, right? So that's where we're going to put this box. And here's the minor pentatonic. And then the B.B King box is right here. Kind of different from the minor pentatonic. Here's minor pentatonic again. And the B.B King box. So it's this little pattern, like I said, kind of lined up and arranged off the B string right there. So that's your hummingbird vibrato note right there. And as far as that hummingbird vibrato, we are going to talk about that too. But I've seen videos of BB talking about that. And he didn't actually have, like his hand kind of wrapped around the fretboard. He's literally kind of, he's doing that motion, but he's doing, and just grabs that note and you're pulling it toward the floor. But it's very aggressive, very accented. of that B.B King box we just looked at, and if you just descend that scale, it sounds like B.B King right there. So definitely B.B like playing off that A note. He would bend like this B a half step, kind of milking toward that C. Then he would grab that C, bend that up to D. And then you can definitely kind of navigate through a blues progression using that shape. Now what B.B liked to do is blend the minor pentatonic with his namesake box. You know, and there's the A minor pentatonic box. There's the B.B King box. And then sometimes he would actually add chromatic notes up on the top. Think of the flat 5, you know, that E to D. There's an E flat right there, which is your flat 5 in the key of A. And he would chromatic, kind of do like a chromatic move on top. Just kind of milk those notes, kind of, you know, grab some notes, kind of bend them, you know, almost where it's kind of sour, but it's starting to get in tune, and then go to that root note. So there's the minor pentatonic, the B.B King box, and then add in that flat 5. So now that we've looked at the B.B King box, we're ready to tackle what I played during the opening jam, and that was King Special from the album Indianola Mississippi Seeds, which I talked about that during the intro. But great album, and this is a great song too. It's instrumental, you know, King Special, and it definitely serves up almost all of B.B King's B.B King-isms, you know, like the bending, the vibrato, the B.B King box. There's dynamics. There's, you know, heavily accented notes and these whisper quiet notes and everything. Really, really cool. So we're in A, and I was using the MXR clone looper. Actually, the MXR clone looper was handling the guitar and the bass, kind of simplified. It was really missing that kind of honky-tonk Leon Russell piano, to be honest. But we're basically playing like A7, then it moves to D7, right, back to A7. Five chord E7, D7, A7, and then kind of goes to that quick change to the 5 chord, you know, that E7 at the end, and then repeats it. So I obviously kind of changed the rhythm there, but that's the progression I was playing over at 1, 4, 5 in A or A7. And then you literally hear, you know, B.B starts his solo out of his box right there, and he starts blurring the line between the pentatonic and the B.B King box. And it's all about his setups, like which note he's either grabbing or bending to, you know, depending on what chord he's playing over. So there's some pickup notes into that heavy A, like that. So it's just, you know, E, F sharp, and then a heavy A right there on the B string, right? And then you hear dynamics here. It's that E to F sharp and then 3 quiet A's. And that's another dynamic phrase right there. Kind of a loud bend on that C, and then he gets really quiet on those other notes, like that. So it's dynamics, you know, it's balancing those really sharp attacks with really quiet ones, like that. And then this is louder. So that right there. And you're basically ending up on that A again. And then this is where it's starting to change to D, to the 4 chord. And when you hear that, you know, that A to that C, then you're bending that C a half step, and then it's a C to D hammer on. And when you get to that D note, that's when it changes to the 4 chord right there. And that's all over D7 right there. And there's one of your Hummingbird moments right there, you know, that A. kind of like a rake, like muted strum into that A. And then he's doing, let's see, where were we at there? And then right here, so right there you're going to basically bend that C. And this is definitely kind of a signature move from B.B. King. He would start a bend on one note on a certain string, and then he switches to another note and kind of blurs your, you know, your hearing of the notes there. He's kind of messing with your head in a way. Like that. So it's up to C, grab that D note, and then kind of a smear bend on that B. Like that. So from the top. And then right there, after you do the, you're going to do this, so you're kind of exaggerating those bends, and that's over the D. And definitely you can catch B.B. doing this where he'll do the, and right there, you know, that A and that F sharp is part of the D chord, right? So it's really masterful the way he would use his box. And depending on what chord he's playing over, he would target, you know, either bend to a note, fret a note, or right there, you know. So after those exaggerated bends right there, he basically does an index finger bend there on that D note on the high E. Think Albert King, we definitely had some index finger bends in Albert's lesson. Now they're showing up here in B.B.'s lesson, but he was doing and then he does, so you're bending that D up a half step with your first finger, and then end up on that B kind of smear bend, and then, so it's kind of like the first half of the solo, and he does another pass through that progression again. So like the first half is like this. Right there, it's kind of like the first half. You get to that turnaround where it goes back to that E temporarily, and he does another pass of a solo. So one more time through that, like the first half. Right there, he basically starts like the second half of a solo, like this. Right? Signature licks right there. So he does, and then Hummingbird, and then do that. And then this is definitely a signature B.B. King lick. Right? And then he starts doing, what an interesting bending lick, a workout right there. So A to C, and then you're going to bend that C a half step, and then the chord changes to D, and then he's bending that C up to D. And then it's really hard, like this. One more time. So right there, you're going from A to C, bend that C up to D flat, and then bend that C to D. And then you're going to bend that C all the way up to E. So 2 whole steps right there. Like that. Without bending, it looks and sounds like that. And then with bending, That's really hard to do. And then he starts doing this, and he does like this cram legato lick in there. Like that. And then he starts doing this kind of milked quiet bend. And then right there. And then, and he does this really funky kind of ending. Like that. Really weird string skipping, kind of intervallic. And that's just right out of the A minor pentatonic box there. Like that. That's weird. And then, as you can see, that opening solo from King's Special definitely serves up a lot of B.B. King specialties and techniques and ideas. You know, the B.B. King box, bending, vibrato, dynamics, and there's all kinds of stuff happening right there. And I don't want to say like if you learn one B.B. King song, you've learned them all. That's not what I'm saying here. But if you work on King's Special, it's going to open doors to other B.B. King songs, because you're going to see some of this stuff appearing in his other, you know, music and from other albums and stuff. The box, the bending, the hummingbird, everything. So this is a great one to tackle to kind of get that template and kind of get an idea of where B.B. King's coming from. Something like this. That's going to wrap this episode of Soloing Secrets. Let's look at B.B. King. Definitely an essential, legendary guitarist. You know, I mean, you really can't talk about blues guitar and blues music without mentioning B.B. King. And all these phrases and licks in the B.B. King box, the dynamics and his hummingbird vibrato and everything, it's like a package. You know, it's like if you break down B.B. King's style, you're going to hit and you're going to see a lot of this stuff. And there's kind of signature licks, signature bending phrases. And those setups, like, you know, depending on what chord he's playing over, if you kind of clue into that, you're going to see him doing that throughout his entire career. Like when it goes to the 4 chord, or the 5 chord, or it's sitting on the 1. You know, you can kind of see, like, B.B. King kind of springs into action when there's another chord in the mix. And it's interesting to kind of watch, you know, what he did, you know, depending on the song and the solo and stuff. Great music, for sure. And I can tell you, I'm definitely, you know, a shred-minded guitarist. I've studied, you know, jazz and classical and all these different styles of music. This episode was really hard. I can feel it in my hand, you know, using muscles and ligaments and tendons and stuff in my hand that I haven't really used that much. And it's that bending and that really intense kind of feel. You know, it definitely kind of chewed up my fingertips a little bit, sharpened my bending, and, you know, definitely for you shredders out there, try playing B.B. King with a clean tone and match his phrasing and dynamics and everything. It's really hard. In my opinion, it's almost as hard as Yngwie or Impellitteri or whatever. It's really hard to play B.B. King like B.B. King. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.